If only there were some other patriots, some former Republicans, maybe present, but patriots. We'll find out.
Yeah.
I'm only seeing Anonymous on the Zoom. Oh, it's Miles Taylor. Miles Taylor.
He has a face.
Yes.
He has a face.
Such a patriot.
And he's ready to go work out just like you.
Yeah, that's right.
Did it give you an extra layer of pleasure how insane it drove Donald Trump about who Anonymous was? I mean, during that whole period?
To be honest with you, Stephanie, there weren't a lot of reasons to crack a grin in that time period, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't at least enjoy a little bit how ballistic it made him go. But at the same time, it was alarming. I mean, the president became so obsessed with, yet another quote unquote witch hunt that he didn't do his job. And so, but look, I still smile when he decides to come after me. And when he pretends some days to not have known me, but then to have known me, but known I was so low level that I didn't matter, but then didn't know me again. So I just think it shows that he's getting older. He's got a little bit of dementia.
You were the coffee boy's coffee boy, apparently.
That's right. That's right.
If you've just tuned in, this is Miles Taylor, a.k.a. the famous Anonymous.
New York Times bestselling author.
Yes, New York Times bestselling author, co-founder of Renew America movement. Speaking of renewing America, you tweeted the GOP, you sort of echoed what Jackie Spear just said right there. The GOP Civil War has gone from figurative to physical, and that should worry all of us. I mean, I don't know how many people have to warn us that we are really at a very dangerous point, right? I mean, these just my two headlines this morning, Miles. Gun-loving Trump supporters are amassing shock troops to attack democracy, according to a former firearms executive. Death threats, tweets, jolt GOP infrastructure reporters. I mean, is it going to move the needle, you think, with Republicans that Marjorie Taylor Greene is giving out their phone numbers for voting for infrastructure? So now they're getting death threats, along with the members Democratic members she's directly threatening. Yeah,
this is real. This is real, and it's very bad, and it's not politics, and it's not hyperbole. I mean, it's actually become, Stephanie, in my mind, a national security threat. Now, I'm not actually in politics. I've never worked on a political campaign. I am now because of this fight against Trump, but I've spent my whole career in national security.
Yeah.
This is one of the biggest public safety threats I've seen in our time, is this intense civil discord across the country. Two examples just this week. One was yesterday. Trump said in an interview, basically said in response to the fact that the protesters on January 6th, the insurrectionists rather, were saying they should hang Mike Pence. Trump says, well, they were angry. He basically justifies it. He basically justifies the fact that they wanted to hang the vice president of the United States. Now, to Donald Trump, that's loose talk. But to his supporters, that's a loaded gun that they can go fire. That's what's really scary about it. That's one piece. Number two is I was having a conversation this week with a friend who still works for the FBI and talking about the domestic terrorism numbers that they're seeing, the number of cases they're tracking nationwide. And this person's comment to me was basically the numbers have gone up tenfold since you were in government. Okay, tenfold the number of domestic terrorism cases they're tracking since I left the administration. That's a direct result of the former president's rhetoric. That's pretty scary stuff. Yeah.
Well, you and Olivia Troy, who we've had on the show, I don't know if you're both still Republican, but you're our velociraptors now. Speaking of velociraptors. Do you still consider yourself a Republican? Where are you on that?
Look, I do, because I'm holding out hope that we can bring the GOP back from the brink. But here's why it's important for people like me to remain a Republican. Because if all of the center-right Republicans and the moderates jump ship, we're just ceding the whole battlefield to the extremists.
Yeah.
And even if we all went and joined the Democratic Party, one party rule is not good for this country. And we know that eventually, like all things in American politics, the pendulum will swing back. But if it swings back and we have 1,000 miniature Trumps in the GOP, the country's going to be a lot worse for it. So, what we're trying to do over at Renew America movement is protect the common sense coalition at the center, protect the good Republicans against the bad ones, pure and simple. But that's really hard to do in this environment. And I'm not, my friends call me Mr. Brightside, but I've got no illusions about how tough that battle's going to be.
Yeah. I hope that dream gets drowned in a bathtub, as Governor Chris would say. I'm kidding. I hope we can go back to hating each other and arguing over real things again.
That's what I'm hoping. I want to come on here and just have you rip me to shreds for my.
I want you to be wrong about an entirely different set of things than you are currently wrong about. But I don't know if you see looming over my shoulder. That's my daddy that ran with Goldwater in '64. So, I actually share your hope in the sense that I'm never going to be on the GOP side, but we do need two functioning parties in this country, and my dad and Goldwater would not recognize whatever this party has become. I mean, it's just, it really is. They're not a governing party anymore.
Maybe even more than two parties. I mean, here's the thing. Right now,
yes, whatever would hurt Republicans, I'm for that, Miles. You do that.
Amen. I mean, we would love to, in certain states, set up a competitive center-right third party that can compete against the GOP if it doesn't reform.
That is
something that we've said we're looking at.
That's a fantastic idea.
That's plausible.
That's a fantastic idea, Miles. I am all. See, we agree again.
There we go.
Absolutely, a center-right third party. Do it. But you make a point. You make a point in the work you're doing now. Following the insurrection, moderate voters began ditching the GOP in groves. I have a former LAPD friend of mine who has been a conservative all his life. He's like, that was it. Attacking the cops on January 6th, that's it. I'm done. I'm gone from the Republican Party. But you say at the same time a record proportion claimed to be independent, while a Gallup poll showed the largest increase in Democratic Party affiliation in a decade. Join us. Just join us. Join our big tent, Miles.
Well, I hear you. Look, I think there's bad news actually for both parties. When you look at that Gallup number, that 50%, that's also partly because a lot of people have left the Democratic Party, and it's a historic number. But this is what I compare it to, Stephanie, is this dissatisfaction is like any other consumer demand problem. Right now, you or I could order clothes from wherever we want, food from wherever we want, ride shares from wherever, scooters, you name it. We've got more choice and competition in today's economy than anyone has ever had in world history. Ironically, the only place we don't have choice and competition is in our democracy. In states across the country, the political parties have, really tightened up the laws in their favor, and especially in red states with the Republican Party, and they've made it very difficult to compete. And the result is you've got more and more extreme people winning primaries, and then they're guaranteed to win the general election. That's what we've got to break down to give those disaffected voters, half the country, more choice and competition like they expect in their democracy. It's one of the things that we're trying to do, and a center-right third party could be an avenue, but there's a lot of ways.
Quite seriously, Miles, you make a good point, and again, your organization, this is just bad for America. You say as rational Republicans flee, more radical ones are doubling down on extremist political positions. And you cite this poll that says a majority of Southern Republicans, 66%, support the idea of secession. I mean, people are throwing that around like it's nothing. Right? It's like Civil War they're throwing that term around lightly. And you're right. The less rational people like you there are, the more it's a party now of Paul Gosars and Marjorie Taylor Greens, who are, but completely crazy.
Can you imagine if that figure had come out during the Obama administration?
Yeah.
Republicans would be, they'd be talking about it for months and months and months about how we, need to break away. And clearly, people are so disaffected with Obama that they want to break away, but they're trying to sweep that stat under the rug because they realize that it's a result of their extremist former president, Donald Trump, urging folks to go radical direction. But I mean, you can't overstate that data point that more than half of Southern Republicans think they should secede from the Union. I mean, wake up, people. This isn't a shock poll. It's not a mock poll. This is a real, legitimate poll. And go talk to these people. That's how they actually feel. And it's a result of failed leadership. If we hadn't had a president like Donald Trump, I swear to you, that number wouldn't be the way it is. But he gives these people the green light. Well,
and I feel like Democrats are relatively in array, although you wouldn't know from the mainstream media. We just passed a major infrastructure bill. But, I mean, Republicans really are in disarray, aren't they? I mean, this really is a battle for the soul of your party. I mean, you were tweeted about when you go against Trump and his minions, they literally try to erase you. I mean, And yet we read a story yesterday, right, Travis, about, Trump getting in the middle of all these Senate races is really effing things up for them. Like, they're losing good candidates and over this loyalty test to Trump and, his, endless ability to relitigate 2020 over and over again, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it just shows how petty they are. That example that you cited, racing history, is very, there's just 1,000 examples throughout the Trump administration. I mean, in my case, the Stalin-esque move that I witnessed is after I spoke out against the president, one of his stormtroopers at DHS went to the plaque of my name on the wall, unscrewed it and flipped it over so that it would be hidden to erase me. That's comical and silly. What's more worrisome is that individual, and according to that article, that individual, people were worried he was so incensed that he was going to come into the office and shoot people up. I mean, they were worried for their safety. I had to have a protective detail at the time because of death threats. And the picture of Trump's guy at DHS who did that, they sent my security detail that photograph because they said, we want you to be on the lookout. This guy may come after him. I mean, this is how insane it is. If I quit the Bush administration where I worked for Dick Cheney's office in DHS, and if I quit the Bush administration in protest, they'd have been mad at me. Yeah, see, that's one place we don't want. But if I'd quit in protest...
No, it's like me cheering for Liz Cheney on January 6th committee. I'm like,
there you go.
Oh, God, Cheney's so right.
The Bush crew would have admonished me, but they wouldn't have tried to kill me if I had quit in protest.
Miles,
the Trump crew, MAGA land, wants to kill me because I don't like their guy.
No, Miles,
I witnessed him firsthand, and he's a lunatic.
I mean, I've been a flaming liberal for quite some time, but we do have something in common in that I come from a very Republican family. My dad was chairman of the RNC, but he was also a Nuremberg prosecutor. And the fact that people are openly saying we want to burn books, we want to burn, literally, has no one read a history book? They were literally, no, we just don't want to ban them. We want to burn them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just chilling. Just the outright fascism that we're hearing in some quarters. And I don't think it's hyperbole when you look at January 6th to say this is an ongoing coup. As Malcolm Nance says, it's an ongoing insurgency, really, that is enabled by your former boss, Trump, and incited, not just enabled, incited.
I genuinely don't know what mega MAGA people still need to hear to convince them that the man they follow is deeply unstable and authoritarian. Just the other day, his former spokesperson, Alyssa Farah, who, waited till the end to leave the administration, but to her credit, quit in protest after the insurrection. She went out there and said, I feared that if he got reelected, we would descend into authoritarianism. Listen up, folks. That was Trump's own spokesperson who spent day to day with him. Yeah. His comms director, Stephanie Grisham, who also spent time with him, has essentially said the same thing. His former chief of staff, his former national security advisor, many, many people. These aren't just disgruntled employees. This was his inner circle that witnessed him in person and thought he was mentally unstable.
Yeah. I have to ask you who you think is going to win this battle in your party, because I know you said, I wonder how Trump feels about Youngkin not mentioning him once in his victory speech. For the GOP to win, they're learning they must lose Trump. Well, and that to the degree that it's an SNL sketch, that got under Trump's skin because his skin is, what do we call him? Trump with thin skin.
Yes.
But I mean,
there you go.
But right, I mean, it is going to be who wins that war between the Trumpers and the sane people in your party, I guess, if there's any left.
Well, look, there's a silver lining there in the Glenn Youngkin victory. You mentioned it. Republicans have found that there is a playbook to go win post-Trump. Hopefully that convinces more moderates to do the same. But your bigger question about the GOP Civil War is a really tough one. I think it's gone through 3 phases. The very first phase was when the Tea Party arose. I called that open hostilities, right? That's when the party was just pitted against each other, the far right against the center. Second phase is what I call the detente. As Trump becomes president, it's not really a detente. It's more like the intimidation. And he silences the dissidents in the party for 4 years. Now we're in a third phase of the GOP Civil War called rebellion. And that should tell you where it's at. And that is, it's a rational rebellion, but it's a rebellion because this side that I'm on is a much smaller side. I think the MAGA folks really command the majority of the party at the moment. So it really is an uphill battle. And I think it's going to be a decade-long struggle to try to get the GOP back from the brink.
Yeah.
And as I'm saying that's what woke my little puppy up, Martini. This is Martini. He wants to win the GOP Civil War, but he's going to have to weigh more than 6 pounds to make that happen.
Martini does not look ready for a scrap, but okay.
No,
Martini
not
is
at all. Just a scrap of food is all that guy will get up for.
I thought that was a swifter you just lift up, but okay, that was your dog. So I have to ask you, because you seem so sane. Oh God, now we're running out of time. What was it in the first place that made you think this seems like a good idea to go work for Donald Trump? Because it took you from that to when you wrote Anonymous.
Yeah, I'll tell you the exact answer. It was a good idea because it was a bad idea, if that makes sense. I had a friend say to me, "Why would you go in? He's crazy." And my exact answer was, because he's crazy. Donald Trump was number 17 of 17 in the Republican primaries that I thought should win, right? I helped Paul Ryan with his Trump inoculation plan, which failed spectacularly, right? We did not succeed in keeping him out of office. But once he won, the fear was that he would do exactly what we saw him do. So I urged, rational Republicans who'd been in the past administration, rush into that administration and try to stabilize it. But that's where we were wrong. We were wrong in thinking we could be guardrails, because the only guardrail is the American people and their vote. And that's why I ultimately quit and said, look, don't rely on unelected bureaucrats.
Yeah.
You have got to go vote him out.
I appreciate you and your bravery, and we're so excited. This is your first time on. I hope when you were first, outed as Anonymous, I was like, ooh, he's cute. And then, secondly,
and now you're like, but he dresses like a slop tart.
No,
you're fantastic.
You fit right in here.
Yeah.
And I wish you the best of luck, mostly with your third party, center-right third party. Absolutely, you've got all your life to live, all your love to give. Absolutely, a third party is a fantastic idea.
We have linked to it at your Twitter and your Facebook page, Stephanie.
Come back again, Miles. Thanks so much.